Hello everybody, it's Warren here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 quick match gameplay. This time around we're on Plains of the Dead playing as the Empire against the Lizardmen. And, well, this is a match that's, in my opinion, definitely a bit favorable for Empire. Because, of course, Black Powder, one of the big banes of Lizardmen. Now, it's not as much of a dominating matchup as a Dwarves, because Dwarves, of course, have heavy armor, they've got more effective chaff at holding off lizards, that sort of thing. But certainly, the match, I would say, is not favorable to them. Nonetheless, Empire does have to watch out for some things. Obviously, fear and terror are a huge issue. Most of their state troops not really able to trade with Saurus, so you do want to bring either go very light on state troops and go super cheap, or you want to bring some more elite stuff like great swords. You also do need some high mass or some tools to slow enemies down, so definitely Reichsguard and Cav is a must. And you do have to be wary of the enemy Cav, because of course Lizardman Cav is not bad. People often underestimate them at their own peril. So for our build here, rolling with Balthazar Gelt, good lord choice if you want to go super wide. Here, he's fairly stripped down, no final transmutation. As you guys know, I'm not too fond of that spell, and so we're not bringing it. Glittering Robe is here. Now, this is mostly to buff on my greatswords if my opponent had brought a bunch of Saurus, which is very common in this matchup. Then Glittering Robe makes them much more effective at surviving. It makes greatswords much more effective at surviving because it boosts their armor so much. Alongside that, Plague of Rust, great for debuffing enemy armor, especially in the Cav fight. Reichsguard can trade really well into Cold One Spear Riders or Cold Ones in general if they have the benefit of Plague of Rust. And so that's why we bring that. And then we got Searing Doom to nuke down skanks, swish units, that sort of thing. We also do have Metal Shifting to buff up our own boys, and Arcane Conduit, and of course Evasion to get Balthazar out of trouble a little faster. Now for our main line, it is actually pretty elite here. 4 units of great swords. I decided, you know what, we're going to try to fight the infantry fight for once. And great swords will out-trade Saurus Warriors pretty effectively, and they trade about 50-50 with Temple Guard. They can actually beat, say, Blackguard in a straight-up fight, so they're a little better against units like that. But Temple Guard, despite being pretty elite, they'll usually scrape out a win against great swords, but just barely. So definitely great swords can have a pretty good trade there. We also do have Sigmar Sons helping to anchor the line in the middle, and then to get a little more width, we do have some spears on the peripheries. These guys can, of course, zone away enemy shooting if needed, and otherwise they're just there to soak up charges, that sort of thing. Then the main firing battery, Sterling's Revenge, as well as 3 units of handguns and the silver bullets. Really a pretty brutal and oppressive presence. They can really melt enemy high armor targets like this Bastillodon or Lord Mazdamundi, who's not high armor, but they can melt him, that sort of thing. They're very, very potent. And they'll melt Saurus infantry as well if they're given the opportunity to focus them down. Finally, we do have 2 units of Reichsguard and 1 normal, 1 Zintler's. Zintler's Reichsguard is immune to psychology, which makes them a really potent force on the battlefield. Now, my opponent here caught me completely by surprise and decided to just do a box of Temple Guard, and this is weird. This is not something you see very often, but weirdly enough, against my build, it's not terrible. Because they will beat the Great Swords 1v1. There's a lot of them. So I don't have enough Great Swords to deal with that. They're relatively resistant against range fire because they've got so much HP, bronze shields, all that sort of thing. And, you know, they're fairly mobile. They're definitely not a bad unit. They're just very expensive. But with 6 of them, you can definitely swarm all over the Empire, and I don't have too many tools to deal with them. My great swords are okay, the guns are okay, but Cav especially is going to suffer. My lower-end infantry is basically useless. There are a few Bastillodons here which are going to be providing fear and terror, which is also going to be oppressive. Bastillodon with a solar engine is going to be able to sort of focus my troops down, perhaps rout troops off, or debuff my shooting. Single unit Feral Gold One's providing support. And then finally we do have Mazdamundi here in the center. He is providing his Sunburst Standard of Hexoatl, which is a great AoE buff to melee defense and missile resist. He also has most of his spells, I think. He's got Ruination of Cities, Bound Banishment. He's got the Shield of the Old Ones, and all of his spells, I do believe, Net of a Mintok, Curse of the Midnight Wind, Harmonic Convergence, Comet of Cassandora, Arcane Forging, and Apotheosis. So very potent lineup. Rolling Sky is a bit of an odd one. Perhaps looking to defend himself against Karl Franz or Flying Lord, but definitely some pretty nastiness here from the Lizards. So immediately we're going to try to close the distance. The Laser Lizard did fire and did basically nothing. Now Ruination of Cities is going down over here. Laser Lizard over here actually clipping my Reichsguard. Actually, never mind. He was shooting the Reichsguard. He's taking 5 models off, which is definitely not nice. This Ruination here did some damage, took off 4 handgun models. Last second, I do see the banishment going down. This is something I don't see anywhere near enough. I often miss vortexes and then get annihilated. We do manage to juke it, and in the meantime, the lines are clashing. They're moving in right into range. Sigmar Sons there pushing in, and now the crossfire is pouring in. This is where we get our vengeance. Feral Bastillodons really not going to stand toe-to-toe with Imperial Black Powder, and you can see they're going to get absolutely torn to shreds here. That said, the main line is getting crushed. These cold ones, Feral Cold Ones, are pushing in. I really need to get my Rex Guard in here immediately, but they were too far back. And now these Feral Cold Ones are actually going to be getting into my backline. You can see they rampage for a little bit. They're getting shot by guns, but immediately my opponent counters with Cold-Blooded. And they're actually going to be able to force through and get on my infantry. Balthazar Gelt here trying to intercept them, prevent them from pushing through. The main line is buckling, that fear and terror, just crushing my troops. Spearmen are routing, Greatswords are routing. And it's just really brutal stuff. That said, the Reichsguard are going to come in here with a crushing charge against the Feral Cold Ones, debuffing them, crushing, just breaking their leadership. And Reichsguard on the charge will do a lot of damage to Feral Cold Ones, so they're going to drop pretty quickly. That said, the handguns are going to have to evac. Now, they are fast enough to outrun Temple Guard, who only have 31 speed. The handguns 33. We're going to have some Benny Hill action going on. But definitely things not looking too great. The Feral Bastiladon in the meantime and the Bastiladon with Solar Engine have been whittled down, and Mazdamundi's taken some fire as well. It's definitely a bit of a win for us, and we are actually able to pincer these Temple Guard over here. So a bit of a misplay on my opponent's part. Certainly he has managed to crush this flank, but now he's not able to pursue and run down my guns. Reichsguard is going to commit here, just tie these boys down, buy me a little bit of time, and in the meantime, this pocket here is getting absolutely massacred. We're actually going to hit these guys with a Plague of Rust, which is going to make our Great Swords or Sigmar Sons, all those units much more effective. The Temple Guard actually routs there. And in the meantime, our gunfire is just overwhelming these troops. The older Mazdamundi, they're taking a lot of beating. This Bastiladon here, very badly beaten up. Bastiladon over here is actually holding pretty steady. But certainly there's been quite the royal whooping applied to some of these troops. And the Bastiladon with the Solar Engine actually went down the gunnery fire. So my opponent's going to have no range support. And things are definitely looking up. We're able to evacuate. We've got our fast Sterling Revenge here running away from the Temple Guard. Silver Bullets running away. And now this must be incredibly frustrating for my opponent, who's just not able to catch me. The Temple Guard are just too slow. He does drop another Ruination of Cities here, looking to nuke my troops. But Ruination's Ruination. It's very unreliable. It does hit my Spearmen here and does kill a model, but it's just not cutting the mustard there. In the meantime, these two Temple Guard completely shattered, run off the field. The Zentler Reichsguard looking all gallant as they run over. While elsewhere, we're kind of taking what shots we can and then running away and taking advantage of our superior mobility to tie these guys down. We're trying to get our swordsmen and our great swords in the fight here, cutting up these Temple Guard. These spears are pursuing. We're actually kind of collapsing on this pocket and starting to really mess things up. And we're also being able to sort of mop up these feral troops. These Feral Cold Ones, full flight down to 4 miles. My opponent not really using Apotheos to heal these troops up. This Bastiladon is going to be removed from play. And now things are going to start looking a little grim. Certainly my opponent does have a lot of Temple Guards left on the field. Some very healthy units of them. These guys on almost on over half health. These guys at about 2/3. These guys at 3/4. These guys almost full. But we are now collapsing on them from all sides. And as they get bogged down, the gunfire is starting to add up. Now, certainly over here, another banishment is going to go down, cause a lot of issues. We do counteract here with Glittering Robe going down. Perhaps not the most effective, but really, I just didn't have too many great spells to use at this point. Most of my troops are AP. My opponent did not go with the non-AP line. And honestly, you know, Temple Guard does have some non-AP damage. If you look at the numbers here, it's 13 and 29. So against that, the Greatsword's getting a little bit more armor will definitely help. We're also able to debuff these guys with Plague of Rust and drop a Searing Doom, which is definitely going to be very, very nice. Drop these guys a little bit further, make them just that little bit weaker. And the Great Swords here are winning this fight. Elsewhere, Sigmar Sons slowly but surely whittling down these Temple Guard, and this is where that crossfire, just the constant wailing fire, is really adding up. This Temple Guard here finally breaking in the back line, the Bastiladon rundown. While over here, the Reichsguard are able to get on Mazdamundi, and we're slowly but surely dissecting the Lizardmen force. Certainly it's not over. This Bastiladon still pursuing these guns. These Temple Guards still pursuing, but at this stage of the game, time is running short for my opponent. Mazdamundi is getting overwhelmed. He's popping Apotheosis, trying to keep himself alive, but he's not near a pocket of troops. These Temple Guard are getting overwhelmed. You can see just how much of an advantage that surround gives us. These guys are getting completely dumpstered. At this point, my opponent does choose to GG out of the game. So a brutal beatdown from the Empire, and really showing the issues. If you don't bring enough mobility, what can happen to you? The handguns in this game, a lot of them spend the game essentially running for dear life. But because they were quick enough to outrun the Temple Guard, they were able to crossfire them, whittle them down over time, and my opponent really wasn't able to do anything about it. He lost his main mobile units. His Bastiladon's obviously not the most mobile unit, but his only real mobile unit there was the Feral Cold Ones. And then the Bastiladons, who were kind of mobile, got shot up, and only one unit really stayed alive, and it was just too slow to shut down multiple handguns. It was struggling to catch one unit. It basically spent the entire game chasing them. So definitely some rough stuff. It's why I think you want to go wider with the Lizardmen. Bring cavalry. Cavalry is a huge boon in this matchup. I don't think Temple Guard are really worth it. Maybe like one unit as a bodyguard if you're going with a Salon, which isn't necessarily a bad idea. But definitely bring some cav. Maybe some skink chiefs to sort of break the rampage. I'd also advise against bringing all your spells, because there, what my opponent did, bringing Mazdamundi fully kitted out. Now, sure, Mazdamundi with full kit can be a potent force, but he costs so much money. Mazdamundi, even stripped down with Sunburst Standard, you can see you're paying 2,300 gold for stuff that's just not that useful. You could easily ditch Comet of Cassandra. You could ditch Arcane and Forging. It's not that good against Empire, so screw that. Let's say one of those 4 spells. Sure, that's great. Rolling Skies, you're under 2,000. You've already cut off like 400 gold on your costs. Really, Ruination of Cities, super unreliable spell. You can drop that for another 200. And that frees up so much gold value. And I think, even my opponent wanted to go with this pure Temple Guard build, which you can. It's not what I would recommend. Personally, I don't think you want to spam Temple Guard. But let's say that's really what you want to do. I think a much better build would be something along these lines right here. You could bring like a Skink Chief, cut like a unit of Temple Guard, I don't know. And bring like one more unit called Soul Spear Riders. And this will give you a much better lineup if this is really what you want. Now, personally, I don't recommend Temple Guard. I don't think Temple Guard is really the way to go. We will see in the upcoming patch if Salamanders might be good value. I don't think that the new Skinks are really going to be great against Empire. Probably just overkill against lower end state troops and just too expensive, especially given they're probably going to get run down by Cav pretty easily. The Regiments of Renown might definitely shake things up. Perhaps like the Ark of Sotek or the Engine of the Gods might be powerful. But my main thought would be that the Salamanders might be decent against Empire. If they are able to outrange guns and melt them with fire, you can definitely be some nastiness. So we'll see how they are. But this sort of thing would be my recommendation if you're really hell-bent on running a bunch of Temple Guards. Regardless, well played to my opponent. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it entertaining and fun. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. If you have any comments, any critique, and questions, be sure to post them down below, and I'll do my best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.